Hello, my name is Shaun and welcome to another video on this deep, rich channel. I'm sorry for not recording videos in nearly a month now. I just felt unmotivated. I just wanted to take a bit of a break as well. I just decided with the channel, I just want to record videos and release videos when I feel like it. Because I just don't want to force myself. It was June last month, so today we're going to look at all the films and TV shows that I watched in June. By the way, I have a bit of a cough and my voice sounds a bit croaky, so please forgive me. So the first thing I watched was Shaun of the Dead. I've really been wanting to get to the Content trilogy for a long time now because I've heard great things about it, and this was a really great film. I've seen clips of this film, bits and bobs of it on telly and that, but I haven't seen the whole thing in full. It has a very unique style throughout, which is uniquely Edgar Wright style, and it runs throughout the trilogy. He also has a unique style of humour and writing as well. I like how the writing is used to like foreshadow stuff to come later in the film as well. It's just really great writing, and every time something weird is said in this film, it always means something later on. I mean, it has a concept as overdone as zombies and makes it really unique and really entertaining. Just a great comedy, has great emotion, and obviously the chemistry between Simon Pegg and Nick Frost is just great. I think it's a 10 out of 10 for me. And then we got Hot Fuzz. This is probably my favourite in the trilogy, I think. The pacing is just so great in this film, and the plot is constantly moving along. I like the murder mystery aspect of this film as well. I like how all of these films have like a generic concept, like a police officer, and then it has like a massive twist on top of it. And this is probably my favourite twist out of all of them. The action is just amazing as well, and the third act is just mad, just amazing. 10 out of 10. Then we have the fight. Then we have the final film in the Connected trilogy. We have At World's End. I think this is the weakest in the trilogy, but I still really like it. I think the sci-fi concept worked really well in here. I like the relationship between all of these characters who get back together after a long time. I just think the ending felt a little bit anticlimactic, but obviously it still has Edgar Wright's great flair, and I think the action in this film is just the best of the trilogy. I give it a 9.5. And then I watched The Mummy. I saw this on Amazon and I thought I'd give it a watch because this was a childhood favourite of mine. My mum had the DVD of this film and I used to watch it a lot. It's just a great film. It's Brendan Fraser. You can't go wrong with Brendan Fraser. It's Brendan Fraser. The three main protagonists in this film are just so likeable, and I'm always entertained when they're on screen. I like the slapstick humour elements as well, which I haven't really seen with a film like this. I mean, 20 years on, the CGI hasn't aged the best, but if you just forget about it and have fun with it, you'll have a good time. This film just has everything for me. It has action, adventure, comedy, horror. I just think the Egypt mythology aspect of this film was just a bit boring for me, especially the prologue at the start of the film. I just wasn't really interested in. I just want to see Brendan Fraser, okay? But all around, it's just a really fun nostalgia film for me. I'd rate it an 8.5. And then we got Better Call Saul Season 3. This season was really great. Obviously, we got the return of Gus and Los Polisomanos, and you see Mike starting to work for him. There's a lot of stuff going on with Jimmy and Chuck's relationship. At first, I didn't really like Chuck as a character, but after the chicanery incident, you start feeling sorry for him. He commits suicide at the end of the season, and it's very shocking. Really great ending to a really great season. I think I'll rate it 9.5. Then I watched Better Call Saul Season 4. I think this is one of the weakest out of the show so far. I just don't think it's a very eventful season. Of course, it's still amazing and I still enjoyed it. I like how Jimmy deals with Chuck's death at the start of the season. It's great seeing Jimmy trying to get his position as a lawyer back as well after the whole chicanery incident. I also like the subplot with the Germans trying to build the secret underground thingy for Gus, and obviously Mike supervising. Obviously at the end, Jimmy gets his name Saul, which is really great. But I just don't think there's as many high points in this season as the other seasons in this show. It's still really great. I'd rate it 9. Then I watched Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. I like the continuation of Jesse's story after Breaking Bad. I'm glad that he managed to get like a semi-happy ending as well at the end of this film, and obviously going on one last mission to get that new life. I like how the flashbacks were interlaced with the plot of the film as well, and how they contributed, especially the scenes with Todd and his relationship with Jesse. I think the problem with this film though is that it was unneeded. We didn't really need to see what happened with Jesse after Breaking Bad, but this was a really great continuation. I did still really like it. I'll rate it 9.5. And then I watched Hustle, starring Adam Sandler. I haven't watched many Adam Sandler films. I really need to get on Uncut Gems because I've heard a lot of good stuff about that. I'm not the biggest fan of basketball, or sport in general, but I really like this film. It feels like Rocky from like the trainer's perspective. I really like Adam Sandler in this film as well. He's written to be like really likeable, and his acting's really great as well in this film. I do like the use of like unique cinematography in some points of this film as well. There's like some sharp zoom-ins at points in this film. I think it works in terms of like this sport, fast-paced film. I just think the writing and Adam Sandler carry this film for me. I'd give it a 7. And then watch The Maze Runner. I think this was an interesting dystopian film with an interesting concept. I like the cinematography of this film. It does feel generic at points, but there's some shots in this film, especially with the maze, that are great, that show like the scale of the maze and how scary everything is in the maze. I think all of the characters are unique in their own ways as well, and the interactions are decent for the most part. They can be one note at points though, and I just don't care if they die or not. I do think the pacing was off in this film though, and I just felt the movie was moving like way too quick for like our main character. There's also a lot of telling and not showing in this film as well. There's so many people asking questions in this film. It just get really boring after a while. I know this is based on a book, but I think the reveal of everything going on behind the scenes of the maze wasn't done very well, and it was just very underwhelming, and the sequel bait at the end was so sloppy. I haven't heard very good things about the sequels as well, so it's just really bad sequel bait. I don't know, I'd give this film a 5.5. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, I don't know. And then I watched Better Call Saul season 5. I like how Lalo and the Salamakas get a lot of screen time in the season, and I like how Kim's character is slowly changing to become like Jimmy. She's becoming a slipping Jimmy now. There's a lot of tense moments in this show as well. It's just really great overall. It might be a 10. This one I didn't know if to count or not because it's only the first half of the season. I've got Better Call Saul season 6, the first half. I like the focus on Nacho at the start of the season and after his escape from Lalo, and you really feel the tension build in these first few episodes, obviously leading up to Nacho's death. Lalo becomes like more and more threatening as this show goes on. It becomes more and more of a threat to our main characters. It's also fun seeing Jimmy and Kim pulling off this slipping Jimmy move to like try and take Howard down a peg. I mean, it's obviously fun until it's not, because yeah, episode 7 happened. That cliffhanger was probably one of the best cliffhangers of a show I've probably seen in my life. I literally can't wait to see the next half of this season. I think it's just perfect so far. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. And then I watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I like the great concept of these scientists who like test the cure for Alzheimer's on apes, which obviously leads them to become super intelligent. I really like Caesar in this film and his relationship with James Franco's character, and his evolution is just great from this like innocent ape to like a leader of hundreds of apes. It's just great seeing that. Malfoy is in this film as well, and he's an animal abuser. I didn't really care for the infected human subplot, but it does play a massive part in the next film, so I understand setting up in this film. I think this is a great start to the trilogy. I think I'll give it an 8. And then I watched Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I like how Caesar and the apes have more time to shine in this film, and I think the post-apocalyptic world is just a great setting for them as well. I think the CGI is improved vastly from the last film as well, and the apes just look amazing. Obviously Andy Serkis playing Caesar as well. Does amazing motion capture in this film and the last. And I like how Caesar gets more of a speaking role in this film as well. I really like Cobra as a villain as well, and the trouble and corruption he causes for Caesar as well. And the ending battle was just amazing, with some really interesting cinematography that is unmistakably Matt Reeves. And I think the ending just sets the next movie up really well as well, and it's actual good sequel baits, unlike The Maze Runner. I think I'd give it a 9, you know, I think it's really great. And then I finished watching Obi Wan Kenobi. I'm not the biggest fan of the prequels, but I loved Ian McGregor's performance as Obi-Wan, and it's really great seeing him reprise this role. I think episode 1 and 2 was pretty good. Episode 3 I thought was pretty good. There were some really convenient things happening in parts of those episodes, and there was some really weird writing choices, obviously Layer in the Woods. And then episode 4 I don't know what happened. It just felt like a massive rehash of episode 2 with Leia being kidnapped again, and there's just some really convenient writing choices to get characters out of situations. I do think it redeems itself in the last 2 episodes though. Darth Vader gets a bit more screen time in those last 2 episodes, and we got to see a bit more of Hayden Christensen as well, which we hardly got to see in the whole of this show, which I'm really disappointed about. Final battle between Darth and Obi Wan was just great in the final episode though. It has so much weight and emotion to it, and it's just great seeing these two like battle it out with like modern VFX. I think the ending was really satisfying as well. I think it came to a pretty good conclusion. Just had a lot of mid and sometimes under average episodes. So overall I think I'm going to give this show a 6.5, and then watch the final film in the Planet of the Apes trilogy, War for the Planet of the Apes. I think the cinematography and CGI really stand out in this film in a really great way. Like, this film is even more Matt Reeves than the last. I like how the apes have evolved even more in this film, and now Caesar can like fluently speak, which leads to some great moments between characters. I think this film can be really emotional at moments as well. It's just all around a pretty depressing film. A lot of bad things happen in it. When something good happens, something bad also has to happen alongside it. So it's not like the most rewatchable in the trilogy, but it is a really phenomenal conclusion, I think. So I think I'm going to give this one a 9.5. And then I watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I've hardly watched any Nicolas Cage films as well. I need to watch more Nicolas Cage films. I need to watch more Adam Sandler films. I really enjoyed this film. I like how Nicolas Cage plays himself. It just leaves some really great moments. I like how self-aware he is, and I think the comedic moments in this film were just really great as well. I like Pedro Pascal's character as well. I just like their relationship. Overall, I think this is just a really great comedy film. Interesting concept. I'll give it an 8, I think. And then I watched Zoolander. I decided to get a 7-day free trial to Paramount Plus, and this film was on it, and I really wanted to see this film, so I gave it a watch. I really love Ben Stiller as a director. I watched Tropic Thunder and The Cable Guy last year, and I really like those films. I really like the comedy in them. He just throws absurd and random humour into his film, and it's just really great. There's just so many laugh out loud moments in this film, and the plot is just so weird. I love the chemistry between Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson in the final act of this film as well, and it's just dumb. It's just fun. It gives me some Austin Powers vibes as well. It's great. I think it's a great comedy film. I give it an 8.5. And then watch Pulp Fiction. This is probably like one of the most highest rated films I've watched. It's extremely high rated on a lot of media rating platforms. I can see why, but I think this film needs to grow on me. I like how messy this film is in terms of chronology, and it somehow manages to work like really well, and it adds like tension to the plot, and it adds mystery to the plot. I like how all of these plot lines in that are disjointed from each other in a way, like with Bruce Willis's character and then Samuel L. Jackson's character and John Travolta's character. I think things are set up like perfectly in this film, and they always come into play later as well. I just think it needs to sit on me. Like I said, it's not like an immediate 10 out of 10 like Eternal Sunshine or some other films that I've watched, but I do think it's masterfully made, and it has so many iconic lines and moments that I didn't even realise were from this film. So I give it a 9.5. And then I watched Airplane. I think this is a really great parody film. It's so ahead of its time for 1980. It just has so many running gags and jokes in this film that are just so great. It's just gag after gag. There's no like stopping in this film. There's so many like random and unexpected gags in this film as well that just work so well. I do think some jokes haven't aged particularly well, and the fast pacing and quick fire jokes can get a bit much sometimes, but most of the time it works in the film's favour. So I think overall I give this one a 9.5. And then watch Airplane 2, the sequel. I think this film is like even more of its time, and they do start to rely on film references as well, like they reference Star Wars and E.T. in like the first 5 minutes of the film. There is some moments that feel like a rehash of the first film as well, and they do acknowledge it sometimes. I do like how most of the cast from the last film returns, and their little quirks and gags from the first film come back into play in this one. And there is some really great original gags in this film that could stand up to the first, in my opinion. I think the big flaw of this film is that the jokes in this film aren't as like fast paced as the original. I think they do take some breathers, which just leads to some pacing issues. Overall, I do think this is an acceptable sequel. I do like how it sets itself in the future as well, and I just like their take on the future. It just leads to some great gags as well. I think I give it a 6.5. So here is So that is all of the films and TV shows that I've watched in the month of June. Currently watching The Boys season 3. It's just gruesome and bloody and outrageous as always. I like the introduction of the 24-hour Compound V as well, and it creates a lot of conflict between the group, and obviously Soldier Boy as well, creating some conflict there as well. I like the focus on Homelander's mental struggles as well, and there's just so many twists and turns after every episode that are just so great. I'm also watching Miss Marvel. I think Miss Marvel is one of the worst Marvel shows that I've watched. I do like the interesting style that shows up in the first 2 episodes and then never really returns. The humour is okay at points. It's just Kamala's character, bruv. She's just so annoying. It's just boring, and there's way too much focus on the culture aspect of this show. There's hardly any focus on the actual superhero aspect of this show. I just hope the last 2 episodes are more action-packed. I'm just not enjoying it so far. So, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you didn't, please dislike. I'll see you next video.